The Last Duel is an upcoming medieval epic starring Matt Damon and Adam Driver, based on a very real event in the 14th century, the last judicial duel in French history, where two men fight to the death and let God decide their truth. In this video, we'll look at the recent trailer for the film, talk about the real history that's being portrayed in it, and see how it's likely to be adapted. The movie itself is based on a non-fiction book released back in 2004, The Last Duel, a true story of trial by combat in medieval France by Eric Jager. Though the story itself was widely recorded at the time, the movie covers an event on December 29th, 1386, where a trial by combat was held between the knight Jean de Carrouges and the squire Jacques Gris. Carrouges, played here by Matt Damon, accused Jacques Gris, played by Adam Driver, of raping his wife Marguerite. So it sets the scene for a very high-stakes film full of drama, pageantry, combat, and questionable hairstyles in high medieval France. The film is directed by none other than Sir Ridley Scott, the genius behind Gladiator, Kingdom of Heaven, and Robin Hood, but we don't talk about that one. His attention to lush world building and detail again shows through in this film. The costumes are roughly on point and show the texture and lavishness of the era. Even the hairstyles, like Matt Damon's Billy Ray Cyrus special and the bleached hair of Ben Affleck, are technically possible within the period, as the fringe cut was very much in style, and the bleaching of hair has been around since Roman times, with lye and even urine used to lighten hair color. Even the long flowing locks of Adam Driver were a bit possible with some curlers and hair tongs. The armor they're wearing is of roughly the correct shape and styling for the era. The late 1300s saw the rise of plate armor and the increasing encasement of warriors inside of these suits of steel. Though personally, I've never seen an example of a half face visor, and it may explain how Matt Damon got that wicked scar. Likely though, it's a play on the idea of a jousting helm and shield, where only one half of the body would need to be protected. Again, it's just a bit stylized, and Ridley Scott is known to employ a small army of historians for his films, so you shouldn't worry too much about accuracy. For characters, Adam Driver continues his streak as Hollywood's most broodingly attractive bad boy, and Matt Damon trades in his lovable affability for a bit of a gruff exterior. Jacques Gris and Jean de Carrouges actually started out life as very close friends. Originally, the film was meant to star with Ben Affleck as Jacques Gris, adding an extra layer of meta Hollywood commentary to the film, but Affleck had to take a reduced role due to production delays, instead playing Count Pierre d'Alençon, the liege lord of both de Gris and Carrouges. While the two men started off on equal footing, Gris advanced through court life with a combination of flattery, bribery, and charming good looks, while Carrouges tried to take the more traditional route, depending on the strength of his arms and his courage to carry him forward in feudal society. But the medieval world was quickly changing into one of lawyers, laws, and merchants, and Carrouges saw himself outstripped. And it's only after a series of tragedies, bad investments, and a lifetime of navigating the ever-changing feudal hierarchy system of medieval France that the two come to blows. The film seems to be taking the position that the assault on Marguerite de Carrouges definitely happened, but the court records at the time were far less certain. Gris and Carrouges had been in a long-standing legal dispute that eventually led to the two having a very public and loud falling out. Carrouges went to Paris to contact a lawyer and better prepare his case, and when he returned, Gris was accused of rape. The official document records that Gris visited Marguerite while Carrouges was away, forced his way into his chambers, and then sexually assaulted her. Gris insisted on his innocence, and Marguerite insisted on his guilt. Even today, cases like this can be difficult to prosecute, but in the medieval era, there was an extra layer of complication, as Marguerite's testimony was not considered as important as that of the knight Jacques Gris. The case was then taken to Ben Affleck's character, the Count d'Alençon. But as Carrouges had been passed over for multiple advancements and Gris was the clear favorite, Carrouges felt he couldn't get a fair trial and did not attend. Gris won in his absence. Carrouges then decided to appeal to a higher power, Charles VI, King of France, who had a vested interest in Carrouges' case, as by overruling a local baron, he could re-exert power over his dominating court. The king agreed that due to the lord's implicit bias, he could not hand out a fair ruling. But the case could not be retried, and Carrouges' only option was a trial by combat. Keep in mind, this is an official duel as sanctioned by a court of law. The knock-on effect of this duel is that Marguerite's life now also depended on its outcome. If her husband lost, that meant she would be guilty of false testimony and she would be executed. The depiction of a giant tournament ground with thousands of people attending is exactly accurate. This was a huge event and people traveled for hundreds of miles to come and watch it. As it was a legal proceeding, it was also recorded in nearly a dozen court documents, making it one of the few times in history where lawyers were useful. Judicial duels are frequently depicted in Hollywood media as something that would have been very common throughout the Middle Ages, but in reality were quite rare. It had been a full generation since the last had occurred on French soil. It's only because the two men were of roughly equal rank and social standing that it was allowed. Reports of exactly how the duel was fought do differ, but the movie seems to be following the example of the book, first beginning with a joust on horseback, and then dismounting with axes, and then going to swords, and finally, two men on the ground wrestling with daggers. Now, I won't tell you what happens at the end because that is the purpose of the film, but if you're interested, there is a link to the book on Amazon in the description below, and I highly encourage you to read it. It's a setup for a climactic battle with lots of tension that I just can't wait to see personally. I actually read the book back in 2005 and have been following the production of this film ever since it was announced. The movie will release on October 15th, and I look forward to talking with you more about it then. Thanks for watching.